Pay for it, you shouldn't have the information.
I don't think they should charge $1,000 for it, but that's their call. But in terms of, I agree with what Becky said, that they're a little different, and so the requirements for them would be different, in my opinion. It's a different scenario, and I can explain that further if you want me to go into that now or later when we discuss it.
So are we saying that for these specific organizations, we need to bend the rules? Is that what we're saying?
Well, would it be a waiver for somebody? I mean, the way I look at it is we would have these rules for people that would do that. And they're non-profits, but they obviously make enough money to pay for their staff. And the
through collections, yeah.
Do what?
Through donations and collections.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Although it's not run as a for-profit, they have income and outgo, and we need to see some of those. But the ones for the senior resources that's been providing that, just since we have done this, I don't know if it's because they could be grandfathered or we could just waive that specific procedure because we're asking them to do more.
Well, let me tell you the background of why I think they can be a waiver or however you want to call it. We are doing a direct cost reimbursement for them, which is different than these other organizations. For instance, PTP and Crime Stoppers, we're asking to give them money for their general operations. We're not doing that for senior resources. We're not giving them money for their general operations, that we're concerned on how they're using the money. We are only directly reimbursing expenses, other than the small amount of salaries, but when you're talking about $2,500 total in compensation for 2 employees, you're not talking much money. But when you're talking about just giving to general expenses for an organization and you don't even know how it's being used, you want to see this information. But when you're directly reimbursing expenses for meals, and we actually get receipts for those, so we are actually reviewing those receipts and reviewing the details and communicating with them about those to make sure that they're documenting their expenditures. So that's why I see them a little differently, where I don't see that we would need as much information from them as we would the others. Now, this information, I think first time, if you're giving somebody money for their general operations, yes, I do think that all this is legitimate information to ask for. And it's a lot of it is kind of one time, the purchasing policy and procedures and financial policies and procedures. If you choose to keep that in there, that's a one-time thing and more than likely won't change, and if it does, they just give you the change. The articles of incorporation and corporate bylaws, usually those don't change that often. They give it to you once, they don't have to give it to you again. Tax exempt status determination, that's a one-time thing, so unless they change their tax status, they're not going to have to give that to you again. Let's see. So those are, and then the assurances are just they sign their name saying they're going to follow our rules and procedures. So first time, if you're giving money just flat out general operations, most of this stuff is legitimate, and actually the IRS tax exempt status determination, you want to know that they're a nonprofit and they're 501c3. So you definitely, that's number one item you want. And then number 2 would be the audit, and then number 3, the 990, or vice versa there, 990 and audit.
I agree with you, Dana, that in section can be carved out for senior resources. I don't have a problem with that at all because of the reimbursement program.
Well, you got down here, or a statement clearly identifying the reason for exemption. I mean, I think if you look at some of this, and if there's something else that we need to put down, we could put anything here. Now, copies of your official minutes of all board meetings, they may have had 4 board meetings. I mean, and then they give you a copy of 4 board meetings.
And they're claiming that they don't have the staff to do that, and I don't know how many board meetings these associations have, or these organizations, but, I can't imagine they have too many board meetings, that would be.
They would.
So there's, I think, well, I don't really know what's causing, it seems like a lot when you read it, but when you really look at the items, it's not that much. We just ask for a current financial statement and their budget. I guess maybe it's because we say it in so many words that we confuse them. If you were to say budget,
right,
financial statement, and just put a one-liner, but we're trying to explain to them what we want. But if maybe it was like a little simpler and a one-liner, maybe they wouldn't have such an issue with it. But we're trying to explain it in a little more detail, I think, so it's overwhelming to them, but I really,
I think if you just put a copy of budget and then put under there, schedule of planned revenues and expenses. I mean, you know, I think there may be too much wording in here that's scaring these people away because they don't understand what it is.
Well, again, these are people that we approached. They didn't come in the door asking us for money. We approached them. So there's evidently some credibility here somewhere with the companies.
Well, I didn't approach him.
You know,
I said I didn't approach him.
well, the town approached Senior Resources 10 years ago.
I'm not talking about senior resources.
Oh.
That's already an exception as far as I'm concerned.
So what is it you want us to do? Now that we've discussed this for the seventh or eighth time.
Just decide whether we want to do waivers for businesses that we approach to provide us with services that we feel that we have a trust for, and provide, you know, whatever we want to provide, that we provide. And use the 501 preceding papers or audits.
The town has had its trust violated before with an issue that's ongoing in Gifford County Criminal Court right now.
I agree, and that would be an organization that walks through the door and asks for money in theory. And so I've not said anything about that type of thing. I'm talking about the organizations that we approach.
You're talking about the senior resources and specifically I thought PHP filled theirs out. I mean, the other people filled theirs out last time, right?
Well, I don't think we had the requirement last time. Something like that.
The president of Piedmont Triad Partnerships makes $240,000 a year. The least they can do is fill out these forms if they want $500 from us.
Did they fill these out last time?
they filled them out the first year, and this year they said that the administrative burden was so large that they provided the documents that they hoped would be sufficient.
So
Now,
But they filled it out the first time, so what, could we make an abbreviated checklist for what we have to have, or do we need to have everything again?
well, we've kind of, one thing we did not put when I was looking at this, and I thought of copy of purchasing policy and procedures and any financial policies and procedures if changed from prior year. We didn't put that in parentheses. But like I said, other than that, I think maybe it's too wordy, and maybe that's where they're, you know, maybe we could do a little abbreviated one with copy of budget, and then have a sheet that explains that for those that don't understand what a budget is. You know,
Do we want to be giving them money if they don't understand what budget is?
I just don't know the issues behind why they're not, you know.
Well, one, they've already provided. You've indicated they've already provided it, and I thought we just said, what if they have already provided the information? So we're always saying, well, they're still going to tell us 300-word narrative description services to be provided when we approach them.
Well, that application, maybe that's up to you if you want them to continue to provide the application, but if you've approached them, that might be one item that you don't have to fill out because you approached them and told them what you want them to do, or you know what they do already. That's an option for you guys to decide, but in terms of these other items, I don't see the issues. That might be, and maybe that's a turn off because the length of the application. Those are legitimate questions, but if those are answers you already know and you don't need them to reiterate what you already know.
Just put see previous application.
That's a possibility on that as well, previous application.
Or no change from prior.
But PTP provided some of the documents, but the others, they did not provide all of them. Crime Stoppers provided some of the documents, not all of them. Now, PTP had already done one, but they didn't provide all the ones like the minutes. I think the minutes were lacking. It's been a while since I've looked at this stuff. They didn't provide those items that were required every year. So that, just to clarify that. Now, Senior Resources, we received theirs, but it was too close to the budget presentation, so Finance Committee could not review it and so forth. And then, of course, we have to make the decision about whether we want to pay $1,025 to get these